In a special edition of Locked On NHL, the Premier Hockey Federation has expanded growth both with the league and financially. We're going to talk about it with one of the owners here on Locked On NHL.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special edition of Locked On NHL. Yes, I know, Locked On NHL is the name. I am the insider of the insiders, Tyler Kuehl, but we're going to hit the PHF today. That is right, women's hockey, the Premier Hockey Federation, where we're going to discuss what happened, the news that came out on Tuesday, guys. Oh, such a big story coming out of the league. $25 million being invested by the league and its ownership group, the Board of Governors, putting it towards the league itself over the next 3 years, with over $7 million going into it next season alone, which also means for that, the players are going to get some benefits as well. $750,000 salary cap, which estimates to about $34,000, $33,000 per player. Yes, that's right. Just about close to a fully livable wage for every single player that plays in the PHF. Also, 100% health benefits for these players as well, so they don't have to worry about paying in their own dime for when they have to get banged up and they have to go under the knife for some reason. Taken care of by the league. Also, best part about this, 100% maternity leave as well. So if these players want to have a family, the league takes care of that. That's all amazing stories. Also, in today's PHF, you can definitely check out the video that came out because that was pretty cool. They announced an expansion of the league now to 8 teams starting next season. One of them is revealed, sort of, not officially yet, but the plan is there for one team and one we don't know about yet. So I had to get to the bottom of this, of course, because first of all, I'm a women's hockey lover. I love watching the game. I love watching the PHF every Saturday, Sunday on ESPN Plus because I have it. It's cool. It's great. You get to watch the best players, some of the best players in the world every single weekend, barring postponements, of course. But I needed to know more about the inside track. Why did this come to be? So I had to go talk to someone that works in the league. So I was able to have a quick chat with the principal owner and the governor of the Connecticut Whale, Tobin Kelly. And I am now pleased to be joined by one of the 6 governing bodies of the Premier Hockey Federation. He is the principal owner of the Connecticut Whale. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Locked On NHL, Tobin Kelly. Tobin, how you doing today, sir?
Tyler, I'm very excited as you can only imagine. So very, very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
This is a Tuesday, I should probably mention, for those who may catch this episode later on. Tuesday was a big day. I remember I was kind of watching some hockey. It was a Martin Luther King Day games going around. Then all of a sudden, Mike Murphy from the Ice Garden, I saw on my phone post the release that came out that there's going to be a big announcement at 7 a.m. Tuesday. My first thought was, awesome. I don't have to wait for anything to come out. But the news that the PHF has come out with a massive amount of, I guess the big thing is the salary cap for players, the health benefits for players. We are kind of already addressed that prior to having you come on here. What is the biggest thing from your side of things that this league is moving forward to so much extent that it's it is a fully professional hockey league now for women?
Yeah, that's the hope, right? I mean, these athletes have long deserved to receive a better wage for what they do and the respect that they haven't always gotten in the game. And so there's still always going to be work to be done. And we don't think that we're stopping here, but we think that this is a sea change step forward in getting these players what they've deserved. It's it's been a long time coming in some ways, but in other ways, the PHF has evolved quite a bit in the last couple of years with the full changeover of ownership, the move to independent ownership. And so I bought the Whale and became involved as a governor this past summer, really.
Right.
So prior to the season, and so getting involved and then the sort of final changeover when the Riveters, Buffalo, and Minnesota changed hands means that there's a group of independent owners that when we all got together, realized that we were all like-minded, all wanted the same things, all wanted to move this league in that direction, and feel like it's the right place and the right time for that with what's happening you report on it, and thank you for that. But what's happening in women's sports generally, in women's hockey, right? It feels like an inflection point, and we want to take advantage of it. And lucky enough to be with a group of people who are all on the same page about it.
What came to this decision? Because I would say the discussion after last season, albeit it was the Isabel Cup bubble and it was kind of an odd year, but it was still a fun time. And the league itself gained a lot of exposure, then known as the National Women's Hockey League. You get the brand changeover, and like you mentioned, a whole group now of independent ownership as well. What kind of really forced it up? Because the salary caps were only around $300,000 at least for this season, and it jumps almost 100 over 150% now to 750K. What built to that for the league to realize, like, hey, we can really kind of bump things up here for the players?
Yeah, I think it was really three different things all coming together at a perfect time. One is just what's happening in the wider sports landscape, and now you can find and you see and you hear more people paying attention to women's sports. I mean, still only receiving 4% of the media coverage, right? But when you see what the surveys say and how much interest there is in women's sports, it's well above that 4%, and that's starting to gain some traction. So, it feels like there's the societal move around sports for women that's moving in the right place. And then you have our league side of things, where Tyler came in and has done a fantastic job. Just amazing in such a short. People forget how she hasn't been here that long still, and what an amazing job she's done. So, securing the ESPN deal and getting those TV rights was amazing. And then adding sponsors, recently adding Warrior and adding, having folks like Discover and other folks. And the third part of that then was what we already talked about, which was the independent ownership group. So you put all those things together, the trends that are happening in women's sports, what Tyler was able to really show us as governors, really, in terms of where we can go as a league with the sponsors and the names and the conversations she's been having with those people. And then the third, and obviously vitally important, to have the new ownership group, and all those things coming together really got us into the same page. It wasn't ultimately I think people may have an impression that there were long drawn out negotiations or something over this, but this was a like-minded group of people all heading in the same direction. And it didn't take very long for us to pull this together once we set our minds to it and once the group was in place. And that's sort of why it's able to happen so quickly, because we were all so strongly in the same place.
Because the meteoric rise of women's hockey. I mean, now you're involved in it, so now it seems like it really hit like almost a roadblock when the pandemic hit, because at the point, yes, there are two entities. There still are. There was the NWHL, and then there was a PWHPA, and they were kind of going at it. But the game was still rising, obviously, with the involvement, and women's hockey was becoming more and more relevant in both from both entities, both from the Dream Gap Tour and the league itself. And then COVID happened, and everyone thought that this was not, I don't want to say it was going to be the death nail, but it was really going to slow down the progress, this rise that we were seeing from the women's game. And then all of a sudden you saw, the bubble last year got so much notoriety. It got on NBC Sports Network, the championship game that drew in some great ratings for the game, of course. It also was broadcasting in Canada as well. Highlights were being shown in Canada. I mean, that was a huge thing as well. And it made it seem like it was going back to normal. And then, you have the rebrand, and that got a lot of traction. And this ESPN Plus deal, I've been a subscriber for years, and I'll be honest, two reasons why I gained a hold of it. One, because my wife wanted Disney Plus, and I said, let's just get the whole thing. And two, I got to watch the CFL. Now right. I got to watch some of the best women's hockey players. That right there, I think, as soon as I heard that, because I don't want to be that guy, Tobin, that says I knew it was going to happen, be all Nostradamus. But I suggested to Dan Rice last year of the Ice Guard, and I'm like, why not be on ESPN Plus? And then all of a sudden, boom, someone must have heard me there. Someone must have watched the show. And it seems like it's really helped this league gain a bigger exposure on such a big platform, part of the company of ESPN.
Yeah, and just being a part of the ESPN family, right? And so all the other parts of that family having access to things and what that does for your exposure has just been incredible for us. And I think really having a partner like ESPN, it makes you up your game too, in terms of production value and how the games look and what's happening and how smoothly they run. That is, in part due to, the expectations that they put on us. And and sometimes you have to rise to those. And I think we've been able hopefully to do that. But for sure, I'm at most of the games, but and the odd game that I don't get to travel for, especially in the pandemic year, I thoroughly enjoy those broadcasts, and it's done everything you said. The day that could end, we knew it was coming, obviously, and we didn't have your prescience. We had the inside knowledge around it coming, but the day it was announced was a big moment, and definitely a big moment in pushing us in the direction and where we got today. So, critical importance to have the eyeballs and the exposure and what that's done for us.
We'll get back to our interview here, Tobin, here in just a moment, guys. But I got to remind you that BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the sports wagering action for 2022. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code LOCKEDON to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Do not wait. Take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. I want to turn back to the money side of things here, because that's obviously the big part, because the push towards having a fully functional, fully professional women's hockey league, that's been, the goal. And, I dare I say, Tobin, 5 years ago, we were not really discussing that. We were thinking, let's just keep it, competitive, and let's keep, building the game, and maybe eventually. But it just seems like over the last 3 years, it just picked up this head of steam. And all of a sudden, and I tweeted it this morning, I said, it happened, because the league is investing $25 million over the next 3 years, $7.5 million for next year as well. And we mentioned the salary cap. How is that going to be distributed, the $750,000 here? Because I've already tried to figure out the figures myself of how it would work. Is the $750K just for the players, or is that going to be through all the staff as well?
No. So the 750 is just a player salary cap, and one of the things that's in the plan is the sort of behind the scenes. It doesn't get the headlines, is making sure that we all are fully staffed up too, and the season's going to expand to additional games, so it requires other inputs of capital as well. It's the 750 plus the benefits on top of that, and everything else sort of rises with that to some extent. So from your workers' comp rates and what kind of staff it takes to pull off those things, everything rises. So there's a larger commitment than what we put out that won't necessarily hit the front headlines, nor should it, because the story is about the money that's going directly to the players. And all of those salary cap dollars of the 750 are dollars that go directly into their pockets, and then plus the benefits on top of that. So 100% paid medical leave and paid maternity leave. Those things are in addition. So no, those are we wanted to make sure that the message we were sending was clear, and we weren't going to cloud it with, they must be spending on equipment or ice time, or we wanted to be very clear and direct that salary cap is dollars that go direct to the players.
And that's the big thing too, because, a lot of these players that, that are veterans of this league, they remember, they have to work 5 days of the week and then hit the bus with the team. And, I've heard stories of some having to take school buses to games, do what you had to do, drive themselves to games from Connecticut down to Boston and what have you, just to make it there and, be weekend warriors with this league. Now it seems like it's getting to that point where, they are professional hockey players, and that, we mentioned that's the goal, and now they're getting this notoriety. And that big one, like I said, was the 100%, the health benefits for these players. Cause if these players got hurt, it's just like, if you're, playing club college hockey, you're on your own almost for the most part, and now these players are getting taken care of by the league. What has been the reaction from some of your players? I mean, I've heard, that this was kind of a good welcome surprise for them as well.
Yeah, it was. I mean, you can imagine that we had to keep this one pretty close to the vest, and you're always itching to tell people, but with such a major announcement, we kept it pretty tight. And so the emails that I've gotten this morning from the players and the coaches and folks around the league have been pretty special already. I'm actually when we sign off, I'm heading down to practice tonight to meet in person with all the players in the Whale, and I think we're going to have a fun conversation, but also be able to explain, give answers to. I think they're going to have some of the questions that you're asking me too, and that'll be good. But yeah, you're right. I mean, we've gone a long way, and the league's come in tremendous progress in the last couple of years, where we have a professional travel outfit that takes care of all the travel for the players. And, we've made sure that if we're traveling long distances, we're on flights, we're not doing, 10-hour bus trips. And those days are past, and we have the locker room, and we have a place for the players to call home, and all those things we've progressed. And yet, because of where the salary cap was and because of where that number was at, we still have teachers and people working in finance and nurses who are, just this past weekend, right, we have a nurse whose schedule changed on her. And so she wasn't going to be able to potentially attend the game Saturday night because, and she ultimately played on zero sleep because she worked the night shift the night before.
Right.
And that's not something that should be. It's admirable. It's amazing that she did it, but it's just not the way it should be for someone who needs to be in a professional league. And that's the part that we hope really is going to be able to change now. And a player can make a choice to just do this as their profession, and we can add to that. And we're not entirely there. As I said, there's still work to do, right? And we still want this number to continue to go north over the next several years, but we think this is a pretty huge start that will get players to be able to make better choices than they've been forced to make in the past. Yeah.
You mentioned the night shift, because my wife she's actually napping right now because she's in the middle of her 3-night run here as a nurse, and she can hardly walk the dog after a shift, let alone play a 60-minute hockey game. So I couldn't even imagine the pressure that goes into that. But this is a great story right now. We're having a lot of people getting notoriety, and it's not just people that just follow women's hockey. I saw Jeff Merrick from Sportsnet, Elliot Friedman, Chris Johnson from TSN in Toronto. So there is wide and big names that are retweeting and following this stuff and writing stories up on this. Sports Illustrated, the Hockey News is getting involved. It's helping this game grow even more. And it just seems like, and people think, oh yeah, we're finally, it's a women's hockey league now. Great. It's a women's professional hockey league. This ain't the peak, is it, Tobin? This is the idea that we're still climbing with this, right?
Yeah, 100%. And you were trying to get that message out too. And, ultimately it's like any professional league, right? We need to have the right combination of sponsors and TV rights and equipment people and the other things that will sort of come into this. And this is a massive first step that we've been able to commit to as a board of governors and as team owners to make this happen. And we're obviously excited about the conversations that are already starting even today, though, with these people who see what we're doing and want to be part of it and want to be on board with us, because that's it. We're not done yet. We're not done. We still have dreams, and we still have areas and ways we can improve the experience. And there's no flawless execution. We're going to keep growing and improving, and we'll make some other mistakes along the way, like other human beings do, right? But we're going to keep working at it.
I'll tell you right now, you already got a bigger salary cap bump than the NHL does. So there you go. There's that going right now for the PHF for sure. You mentioned the next steps here. What is the next plan? What is the next goal of this league? Outside of course, having Game 7 of the Isabel Cup Finals broadcasted on ESPN on a Saturday night, what is the next step that this league is trying to get towards here? Obviously, we know about the expansion. We'll touch on that here in just a moment. But what do you guys want to achieve next? Is there a set goal with the board?
There's no set goal. We've been like a lot of people in women's hockey. We want there to be a single professional women's league where women can play, and that's for sure part of this goal. I think we've been vocal about that in the past, and that remains one of the goals moving forward with this. And then it's to continue to add, right, in terms of the salary cap, because you're still, if you're on the lower end of the pay scale next year, right, it still will be you'll be out of college and still trying to make ends meet. And we want to continue to improve that situation. And then we're going to have to continue to work. Our facilities are really, compared to what they used to be, right, also a massive step forward with, we built the locker room out in Connecticut this year, and so that all the players have what they have, but those need to continue to improve also. So, there's still a laundry list. I would say that, and ultimately the goal is to establish the viable long-term business model that sticks around for longer than we as the current board of governors are here, in the league that is able to generate. If you look at what the major men's sports leagues and where they were at when they were, only 7 years into their run, never mind our changeover of ownership, you find that they were sort of scrapping and fighting and we want to get to the stage where it's our 50th anniversary of the league, and we see what's become like some of these others, and we don't think there's these aren't comparable situations, but we think that these are all doable goals, right? To create this long-term sustainable league where women athletes can showcase their talents, and the best in the world can play with the right conditions and the right level of pay.
That's a huge part there. And you touched on something there, and I'm going to ask you, and you can elaborate as much as you're allowed to. I'm not sure, but you mentioned the one sustainable league in North America, women's league, and obviously we talked about the Professional Women's Hockey Players Association, the Dream Gap Tour.
Mm-hmm.
Has there been any interaction between the two? Because I've known the story pretty much is oil and water between the PHF and the PWHPA. Is there any conversation at all between the two right now?
There's always been conversation, and I'm not always privy to it because of my newness, Tyler. But there's always been conversation over time, and there's always been conversations about what the goals are, and that's where we share the goals, right? And we share what have been going about it in different ways, and we can't speak, and I can't speak to what those players and what that leadership is going to do from here. But the conversations have been there, and obviously, the goal continues to be to push that single league on our part, and we think that we're putting the things in place that all hockey players want.
Yeah, that's would be great because, as fun as it was for a little bit to have the WHA and the NHL go at it back in the 70s, it's
right.
Probably just good to have just one league, probably, right? I mean, I know wrestling fans are like, WCW was the best thing. No, let's get over that.
Right. My old New England Whalers shirt that's downstairs still, right?
Oh, man. Gordie Howe, the Howe line, there you are right there.
The Howe line, right? Yeah.
Oh, man, I tell you. But the last thing we'll touch on from the release today was 8 teams next year. 8 teams, not the original 6, unfortunately. It's going to expand to 8 now. What can you tell us, Tobin? Because I've heard whisper. Montreal was a whisper because that was originally a couple of years back discussed because of the expansion into Canada. The Toronto 6 was the only team that came out of it. What are you allowed to tell me there, Tobin? What are you allowed to tell the folks at home about this new expansion coming up here?
Yeah, well, I can tell you Montreal, which isn't a big surprise. It's not a newsbreaker for you. I'm sorry I don't have that one to break. But Montreal is one of the two, and otherwise I can tell you it's going to be east of the Mississippi is the goal. But obviously we're having conversations. I mean, one of the things that happens before today, and we're always in conversations with different groups, and so now with this news, it changes the dynamic a little bit. But there's active conversations happening in several levels with lots of different people. So because of the sensitivity of that, I can't give you the rest of the scoop, so not much more to go on there, but it will be, but it's coming.
So when I say the state of Michigan, you say it's okay. Don't get my hopes up, Tobin.
Sorry. It'd be good. There'll all be good spots where there's so many, right? You think about the hockey-rich communities, and that's another reason why we feel so good about what we're doing. Think about all the places that. And that's why it's amazing to field the calls from different areas who, and I don't field them, but you hear about them from people from everywhere around the country, in Arizona and Florida, and out in the West and the Midwest and up in the plains. Everybody who is interested in doing something like this, and it's heartwarming because people want to support the game, but we also have to think about some of the practical issues too around those things. Right.
And I keep telling people all the time, as long as I can within driving distance to a game, that'd be great. Because Minnesota's a little far. It's about a day and a half trip for me. So I'm like, if maybe even Chicago wouldn't be too bad. But then again, I can't ask for too much here, except for thanking you so much, Tobin, for taking the time out of your day to talk about the awesome news, the further expansion of the Premier Hockey Federation, the benefits for the players, the well-deserved benefits for these players as well. You yourself, you're running a pretty good hockey team right now, 6-game win streak for the Connecticut Whale. They're on fire, and certainly it's them in Toronto, man. I'm not going to go too far yet to make my predictions on how things are going to be later on this spring, but boy, those are some 2 very talented hockey teams. So once again,
I'll look forward to my pleasure, Tyler, and I'll look forward to that prediction, and I'll look forward to be happy to jump back on when we're carrying the cup around the ice and showing it to you.
I'll tell you this right now. I made sure I wore a regular Bland shirt because my wife told me I could only get 1 shirt, and since we go to Toronto a lot, we got a 6 shirt. So I'll have to maybe get a Whale shirt before that day comes where I make picks here. Make sure you follow the Connecticut Whale guys at CT Whale Hockey. Of course, Tobin, out of this busy day, I know it's busy for you and all the governors of the league, and of course, Commissioner Tyler Tomini as well. Wishing you guys all the best of luck, continuing to progress women's hockey the best way you guys can. Thank you very much, man, and best of luck. And we'll hopefully talk soon, and maybe when things continue to rise up, eh?
I hope so. Yeah, I really appreciate the coverage, Tyler. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
And a huge thank you once again to Tobin Kelly for taking the time to sit down, and a huge shout out to Paul Krotz as well, the public relations director of the PHF, for help setting that interview up with us so we could get you the details of the exciting news. Full professional women's hockey, guys. It's yes, I know what Tobin said. He said they're not totally there yet, but boy, oh boy, guys, they're right there. And I tweeted it today. I said it happened. It happened. Women's hockey, women's pro hockey. It is here, it is now, and it is, dare I say, hashtag today's PHF. So that is it for this special edition of Locked On NHL. Be sure to check us out every single day, Monday through Friday. Mike and DeStefano and I obviously posted one already earlier today, talking about all sorts of the latest NHL news, Panthers, Pronger, all that good stuff. Be sure to check out tomorrow's episode, and Thursday and Friday and Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, Friday, every single day at Locked On NHL Pods. Be sure to follow us there, guys. And follow all of our hosts as well, all across the board here on Locked On NHL. We will see you next time. Have a good day, everybody. And women's hockey, watch it. It's awesome.